We are live. Okay. Shammai, 3, 2, 1, motion. All of your video and audio needs. Muting the feedback. Okay. What? What? Bop, 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 bop. Yeah, it's good. Okay, Rebelli. Take us away. What do you want to start with?
Start with a niggin.
Start with a niggin. Okay.
With a niggin. Out of Shabbos. I don't know why, but this niggin became associated with Friday night.
Yeah. Shalom Aleichem. A small cup of wine he holds in his hand. Yeah.
Da 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 ma da ma ila 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 da ila 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 da 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 ila ila oh ya da ma ya ya ila da da ila 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 da 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 ila 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 da yedam ayam ila 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 da 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 ila 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 da 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 ma ya ya da 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 ila ila ma ila ila ma ya 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 da 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 ma ila ila ma ila 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 da 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 ma ila 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 da da ila 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 da 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 ila ila ma ila ila ma ila 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 da 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 ma ila ila ma ila 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 da 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 ma ila 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 da da ila 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 da 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 ila ila ma 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 ila 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 da 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 ila 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 da da mo yo yo da ila ila.
That's beautiful, Ali.
Thank you.
You brought your guitar. You usually bring your keyboard, but this is more of a.
We have to improvise. I'll change it up.
I thought it's because like the summer vibes, guitar.
Sure.
Yeah. Should start a little fire. No. Not
Yep.
outside. Maybe later we'll go outside. We could light up the fire pit. We have this gorgeous outside in the back. But then we got to be quiet because we don't want to wake up the neighbors.
Yeah, what time is the curfew, sound curfew?
Yeah, we're going to find out. I think we're, you know the old joke. The guy who comes over from Europe and he finds his landsman in New York and in the tenement in the Lower East Side. And he says they're sitting and they're having a glass of tea, catching up. And he says, it's getting really late. Chaim says to Moshe, it's getting really late. I wonder what time it is. You have a clock? And Moshe says, no, I don't have a clock. He says, but what do I have? You know the jokes.
Yeah.
A shofar.
It's got the
A shofar. How do you tell the time with a shofar? He says, hold on a second. Opens the window, sticks his head out. Waits a second. Who's the crazy idiot blowing a shofar at 11:33 p.m.? 11:33 p.m. Yeah. By the way, that joke's my punchline, the way I delivered it, is an anachronism because nobody in the era that joke takes place and it says 11:33 because that's pure digital.
Absolutely.
Nobody said, yeah. Anyways, we have a beautiful crowd here. Baruch Hashem, real life, in person, real food, crackers, herring, pickles, Diet Coke, Sprite. The mashka's on the way. My son Yisrael is on the way, bringing the mashka. So we'll have l'chaim, Baruch Hashem, having a real life physical experience. This is not AI. How can we prove to the people watching at home it's not AI? Is there a AI shibboleth. You're familiar with this?
What's a shibboleth?
A shibboleth is an English word which actually comes from a biblical Hebrew word, shibboleth or shiboilus.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, what is shibboleth? It is a type of grain. But what is the context in Nach where this word was used? There was a civil war between tribes, and one tribe had an accent where they could not, I think it was the tribe of Binyamin, where they could not pronounce the shin. They pronounced it as a sin. So when they would, they're all Jews, so they all look the same. So how would you identify who was a member of which tribe? You would say the word shiboilus, and he would say sibolus. Yeah, that's it. And they would out him. So that shibboleth or shibboleth is an English word originally from the biblical Hebrew, and it means a word that is used to distinguish who is from the in-group and who is not. Sort of like a password, a code word kind of thing.
There was an entire episode of a secular TV show, The West Wing, dedicated solely to the word shibboleth.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay, so that's where they got it from. At any rate, it is Shleishish Yemei Hagabolah, the 3 days of preparation for Matan Torah. We are getting ready for Matan Torah. And what is Matan Torah? What is the inyan of Matan Torah? As the Medrash says, there was once a king, and he made a decree that the residents of Rome shall not go down to Syria, and the residents of Syria shall not go up to Rome. And then one day he lifted the travel ban, and everyone could go wherever they wanted. And what's the nimshal? What's the analog? That when God created the world, God the King said that the spiritual and physical realms are 2 separate planes of reality. Never the twain shall meet. And that when Torah was given, there was an eradication or nullification of this decree where the physical and the spiritual could finally commingle. And that is the chidush, the novelty, the revolutionary quality of Matan Torah, that it became possible, the concept of a hefza shel mitzvah, that we should be able to take a physical object, a mundane object, and sanctify it by using it to do a mitzvah. And not just objects, but our bodies and our animal souls and everything that's mundane, everything that's not yet holy, we can make it holy by using it to serve Hashem. So that's what we are getting ready for. We're getting ready for it to happen all over again. Every year, Matan Torah happens again. Jewish time is cyclical like a spiral, like an upward spiral staircase. So we come around again to Matan Torah, but on a higher level than ever before. So we're getting ready again to experience the melding of the physical and spiritual and the power that each individual has to affect that change. Okay, so is this interesting so far, Ellie?
Well,
yeah, relatively.
Yeah. Well, that's creating the foundation.
This is, you know exactly what I'm doing. That is correct. We're creating the foundation. We're establishing some basic knowledge before we venture into the. Very good. You've worked with me before, so you know my style. Yeah, that's true. So, you know the famous story about when the Alter Rebbe was in prison. So he was visited by one of the government officials, a non-Jew, obviously. And this particular non-Jew was well-versed in not only in the Bible, as they call it, but apparently in rabbinic literature as well, as the story indicates. This non-Jewish government official comes to the Alter Rebbe and he asks him, what does it mean in Genesis when God asks Adam, Ayaka, where are you? Surely God knew where he was. God is omniscient. So the Alter Rebbe said, well, he didn't want to startle him. And this non-Jewish government official says, yeah, that's what Rashi says. So apparently he was aware of that. The way the Rebbe told us is, was Rashi sagt, weiß ich allein. Ich will hören, was der Rebbe sagt. So the Alter Rebbe says, before I answer you, do you believe that the Torah is true in all times and all places for every individual? And this was a thoughtful person, so he thought for a minute before answering, and he said, yes, I do. Now, before the Alter Rebbe even answered, he was very happy to hear that, because he knew that one of the reasons he was on trial was because Torah Baal Shem Tov was on trial in the heavenly court. And one of the basic teachings of Torah Baal Shem Tov is that Torah is eternal in a very specific personal sense, that everything in Torah is true at all times, in all places, for every single person. So, being that the Alter Rebbe knew he was being tried because of Torah Baal Shem Tov, the fact that this non-Jewish government official apparently personally agreed with that basic concept of Torah Baal Shem Tov, that seemed to be a good sign. Okay, but why did the Alter Rebbe ask this clarifying question first before he gave his answer? I mean, it seems from the story, apparently the Alter Rebbe wanted to know whether the guy felt this way or not, because perhaps if the guy would have said, no, I don't think that Torah is always true in every case, in every time, in every place, every person, then the Alter Rebbe might not have answered the same way. It seems that the Alter Rebbe was, in speaking, it's called know your audience. So the Alter Rebbe was trying to read the room, figure out who his audience was. So the guy says, yes, I do believe that. The Alter Rebbe says, fine, so very good. So Ayaka, when Hashem says to Adam, where are you? It doesn't mean Adam, the first man. I mean, it does. That's literally what happened. But the eternal meaning is Hashem says to the Adam, to the person, which is the name for every human being, Ayaka, where are you? Not physically where are you located. Where are you up to in your life, in your progress, in your journey? Take stock of yourself. Look at yourself. Evaluate yourself. What have you accomplished? What more do you need to accomplish? And everybody has to be able at all times to take stock and to ask themselves, what would I answer Hashem at this moment? Where am I up to? At any rate, the point is that it's one of the foundational concepts of Torah Baal Shem Tov, of Torah Chassidus, that everything in Torah is personal and present and now. So when we say that we're commemorating Matan Torah, we're not just celebrating a national event, something that happened. Yes, it happened in the presence of 600,000 heads of household and their families. It happened in front of the entire nation. In fact, we know if one Jew had not been present at Matan Torah, it would not have happened. It was per se in front of the entire nation. Yes, we know that. But at the same time, also, it's a very personal thing, extremely personal. In fact, the Rebbe once described how the reason why the first of the Seder Sedibris of the Ten Commandments is Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. Elokecha in Hebrew is the singular form of the pronoun, the possessive pronoun. Your, not Elokechem, not plural, but Elokecha. God is speaking to the individual Jew and saying, I am the Lord, your personal God. And the Rebbe said, even a little child, even a little baby who was present at Matan Torah, Hashem was saying to that baby, I am your personal God. So Matan Torah isn't just this national event. It's not just this larger-than-life event, although it certainly is that as well, because it's probably the biggest thing that ever happened in reality. But it's also an intimate, personal experience. And it didn't just happen the first time. It happens every time. So it's personal, it's present. We are in the Shleishis Yimei Hagbala. We're in the days of preparation. We're getting ready to experience something very powerful in our lives. Like Ayaka, wherever you're up to so far, wherever you're up to in your journey, something massive is about to shift. And we know the nature of the shift. It has to do with, and we said what Matan Torah represents. It represents the ability, or the new ability, to join the spiritual and the material. So we know what's about to happen for each and every one of us individually in just a few days is a new infusion of a new ability to bring harmony between spiritual and physical. And I use specifically the word harmony because that's really the concept. The concept is what we call tiferes in Spherois, and it's specifically connected to this time of year. As we know, Torah refers to this month as Chodesh HaShlishi, the third month. The first month is the month of the Exodus, of Yetzias Mitzrayim, Nisan. Second month is Iyar. The third month is Sivan. And Torah was given specifically in Chodesh HaShlishi, in the third month, because 3 represents the harmonization of opposites. You have thesis, antithesis, synthesis. 1 represents a point. two represents a counterpoint. Sometimes even they seem unsustainable as a contradiction. Ad sheyaveh hakosov hashlishi, until the third statement of fact comes in, and is machriya beinehem, it's a bigger truth that is able to contain both of these seemingly mutually exclusive opposites, but when you have the point of view of shlishi, it's able to harmonize the two opposite points. So in our case, we have the point of Eined Malvade, there's nothing but God. We have the point of Bereshis bara Elokim eis hashamayim ve'eis haaretz. Hashem created a heaven and an earth. He created creation. So how can they both be true? And we have a Kosov Shlishi, we have a third point of view which harmonizes them and says they can both be true at the same time, that there's nothing but God and God created the world. But how can they both be true? Because as we learn in Shara Yichud Ve'amona, which we're about to begin in the Chitas, in the daily Tanya, we're making a Siyam in Likutei Amorim Chelik Aleph, we're making a Schala in Shara Yichud Ve'amona, so there we will learn how there's no contradiction between the ideas that there's nothing but Hashem and that there's a world, because the world is an extension of Hashem. Nothing but Hashem is absolute in its reality, and everything that exists is an extension of Hashem's absolute reality. So, but this is philosophical. What do I mean when I say we are about to personally experience Matan Torah? It means that whatever seeming conflict we may think there is between body and soul, Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Tov, Nefesh Bamas, Nefesh Elokis, all these conflicts that we think we are suffering from, the truth is Hashem gave us a Torah, which is the Torah brings Shalom. Shalom means reconciliation, wholeness between seemingly mutually exclusive opposites. So all of that conflict is about to be resolved. And we're about to find out how we don't have to exclude any part of ourselves. We don't have to ignore any aspect of the self, because everything can be used. Not only can be used, must be used to serve Hashem. That there's no part of us that's too low that cannot and should not be incorporated into our Avodas Hashem. Meaning to say that when Hashem harmonized the higher and the lower realms, that's not just in the macro, that's in the micro. The harmonization of the higher and the lower means in me, in my higher and lower realms. What are the higher and lower realms? The loftier parts of me, the spiritual part, the altruistic part, the godly part. And then there's the lower realms, that's the dichotomy, that's the paradox of a person. Like we say, an Adam is Aleph Dam. Aleph is Alufe Shalaylam. Dam is blood, a bag of blood and bones. And which one is the Adam? Is he the godly being, Adam Meloshin Adam Elyon, or is he Dam? Is he a bunch of boiling blood? And the answer is yes, he's both. He's both. And Sivan, Chedesh Hashlishi, is the Koyach Hamachriya, to find harmony, to find shalom, to find peace between these different aspects of self. So that's what's about to happen. It's already happening. It's all the process has been engaged. The roller coaster is clinking up the track and about to go for a new ride on a higher level than ever before. So that's exciting. Anyways, I wanted to be ready for that. I wanted to get ready for my new level of harmonization of my higher and lower selves. I said, well, how could I get ready for it? What should I do? So I said, well, how about we make a little Farbrengen? Because a Farbrengen is also harmonization of the higher and the lower. Right? We put out the pickles, that's for the lower. I mean, I don't want to insult anyone, but okay, we speak a little Divrei Torah, that's for the higher. But we need both. We need both, and we harmonize them both. And arguably, the pickles for the Nefesh Bahamas is more important than the Divrei Torah for the Nefesh Elokis, because the Nefesh Elokis is already from. So, yeah. So I said, how am I going to get ready for my personal Matan Torah? I said, I'm going to make a little Farbrengen. I said, well, I don't want to just hear myself talk the whole time, so I'm going to call Ellie. Ellie's going to sing, and I'll be able to do tshuva while Ellie sings. Do you know that's what happens while you sing? I do tshuva.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Not every song. No, it's great. I love it. Some people perform. Other people, they sing from the heart, and you can hear that.
Like Kia Schaefer, in between do tshuva between the tkiyas.
Right, the silent confession. That's right. Ellie, what's a song that we could do tshuva with, that we could really, like, introspective, like soulful, like, you know?
I think the Seirus Rachamim Rabim.
Ooh.
Is that
Hold on,
is it too early?
No. You said it already. You got to do it. But this is connected to Sivan. We have to explain the connection.
Okay.
You want to do it? I know. I only paid you to sing, not to.
It's tangentially related to Sivan.
It's not tangentially.
It's Gimel Tammuz.
It's connected to the Rebbe coming to America.
Okay, which happened in Sivan.
You can tell the whole. Go ahead. 1941. Go ahead.
1941. Wait, we have to back up and tell about Michal Zlochever first.
Okay, start wherever you want.
Celebrating the yard side of the Baal Shem Tov.
When's the yard side of the Baal Shem Tov?
On Shavuos.
Now, is it the first day or the second day?
I knew you would ask that.
Okay,
I don't
it's
know.
a machlokes. It is.
Like,
Our Masoda is it's the first day. The other Talmidei Amagid, Chassidei Poland, say it was the second day. I said the Chassidei Poland. The Palisher, they say it was, the ones who say Shvius, they say it was the zweite Tag Shvius. We say it was der erste Tag Shavuos. Yeah.
They say in Israel where it is only one day.
Yeah. And by the way, David HaMelech's Yortzeit is also Shavuos. Was it the first day or the second day of Shavuos? Could only be the first day because he lived in Israel. And yet, wrap your head around this. David HaMelech's Yortzeit is Zion Sivan. Because in those days, the months, Shavuos is not on a date. It's on the end of counting Sfira. So, I guess there was one less day of Iyar or of Nisan. And so, would that make sense? And then Shavuos ended up a day later on Zion.
Extra day.
An extra day. If there would have been an extra day, then it would have come earlier.
29 in Nisan, 29 in Iyar.
If there would be 29 in Nisan, 29 in Iyar, and then you would end up with Shavuos, the 50th day, being on Zion Sivan. So that's probably what happened.
But today, Zion Sivan is the second day of Shavuos.
Correct.
Calendar.
Right, but in David HaMelech, when he passed away, the year he passed away, Zion Sivan was the only day of Shavuos. There's only one day, not 2 days. What day of the week was it when David HaMelech passed away? Very good. How do we know? David HaMelech knew he's going to pass away on a Shabbos. So every time he survived the Shabbos, he would celebrate Malava Malka. That's the origins of Malava Malka. That is correct. Very good. Right, because they... Yeah. Right, I made it. Yeah, very good. Excellent. Okay, so Baal Shem Tov.
Oh, so Baal Shem Tov's yard site. So we'll get to the Nigunim of the Baal Shem Tov soon, but one of the Talmidim of the Baal Shem Tov was Rabbi Chil Michal of Zlochev, that we've talked about many times. The Zlochever Magid. And he was the head of the Nigunim at the Baal Shem Tov's table. And I may have to turn it over for the story about he couldn't make it for Yantiv, for Rosh Hashanah, for... When did he compose this nigun?
Some Yom Tov you wanted to be by the Baal Shem Tov.
Right.
Right.
So he made a nigun, and fast forward.
His yearning.
Sorry?
To express his yearning is...
Right, that he couldn't be with his Rebbe for Yantiv. Fast forward to the Histalkus of the Baal Shem Tov.
On the first day of Shavuos.
On the first day of Shavuos. And he said that whoever will sing this nigun with a Hisayrus of Tshuva, speaking of Tshuva, that the Baal Shem Tov, whichever level of Gan Eden he's in, he'll come and he'll listen and do whatever he can to help this individual. And I was just reading that the Rebbe Rashab said that in this nigun, it's a Herzach Baal Shem. And you can sense the Baal Shem Tov through this nigun.
Even though the Baal Shem Tov was not the composer.
Correct.
But Michal was the composer. Yeah.
So now fast forward to 1941.
Okay.
There's two versions of this nigun. There's Two
Noch ein
versions.
Nusach.
Hey, nus.
Remember that? Remember? Do you learn?
Yes, learned it later. Noch a nusach. Shout out to Reb David. And even in the times of the Reb Marash, it was a discussion which is the correct nusach, and then the Rebbe Rashab, if I'm not mistaken, established this is the correct nusach.
Right.
So when the Chassidim came to...
But when he established the correct nusach, we should just mention that technology was not at a point where it was recorded.
Correct.
So it was established there's a correct way of singing it, but you had to memorize it from someone who heard the official version. Yeah.
So they come to... the Frierdiker Rebbe comes to America, and the Frierdiker Rebbe asks that they should sing the niggin of Seirus Rachmim Rabbim niggin, or the niggin of Michal Zotchever. And nobody kind of knew
We should explain this. The Rebbe's first Farbrengen.
So I think the Frierdiker Rebbe said, when my Edom comes, he knows it.
Nobody knew the proper way to sing it.
Right.
So
Nobody in New York.
So the Frierdiker Rebbe came in 1940. Tes Adar Tavshin. The Rebbe came Koyach Sivan Tavshin Aleph. Over a year later. So the first Farbrengen that Rebbe was at, the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted the Nigun Seirus Rachmim Rabbim Michal Zotchever. Again, nobody could start it. The Rebbe was very low key, like unassuming, especially in the presence of his father-in-law, was asked by the Frierdiker Rebbe to sing the Nigun and to teach the Nigun.
So here's the niggin. Wait.
No, there's more.
Is there more?
Yeah. Because I learned this from you. I remember you told me this once. So the Rebbe sang the Nigun. There's no recording of the Rebbe singing it. How do we eventually get the correct version or recording of it? Yeah. I learned that from you.
So, right. I just read something that maybe another...
Disputes it?
Yeah.
There's always
no,
something.
anyway.
Don't let that stand in the way of a good story.
So there was a chassid named Reb Michal Dvorkin who lived in Eretz Yisrael in the 40s after leaving Russia. He came to New York in 1949 to see the Frierdiker Rebbe, and one version that I heard is that the Rebbe recorded him or asked him to record this niggin. Another, something that I just read, and maybe I'm confusing two different stories, is that someone gave this recording of Michal Dvorkin to the Rebbe as a Shalach Manis. Anyway, the point is, Michal Dvorkin was recorded in 1949 singing the quote-unquote correct version of this niggin, of Michal Zotchever's niggin. And it was later, I forget which volume of Nichayach, they came to the Rebbe, they said, we have 8 tracks or whatever, full, we're missing 2 tracks. So the Rebbe,
To fill the length of an LP.
yeah.
Right.
In
In the old days, they had an LP, had vinyl, so a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they had about 80%.
This is before iTunes.
But shortly before.
Mm-hmm.
And the Rebbe opened his drawer and took out the recording of Michal Dvorkin and said, use this for the
Final track.
Yeah, 2 tracks. There was this niggin and another niggin that...
And it's a cappella, right?
Yeah,
If I remember correctly?
Yeah, no accompaniment. Now you know. I have the whole story. So this is the niggin of Michal Zotchever.
Seirus Rachmim
Rabbim. See Soul Songs, Season 2.
Yeah, Season
on
2, yeah.
Ay la do yedam, oh ye la da 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 yo yedam. Ay la do yedam, oh ye la da 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 yo yedam. Ya ay la do ya mam oh ye la do. Ayin la do yedom, ayin la da 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 yo yenam. Ayin la do yedom, oh yen la da 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 yo yenam. Ayin la do yamam oh yen la do. Oh, itarai ladam. Oh, inarai ladam. Ay ladam, ay ladam. Yo, itai ladam. Oh, inarai ladam. Oh, itarai ladam. Ay ladom, ay ladom, oh yet ay ladom, do yedam, mama mobo yet ay ladom yedam, mama mobo yedom, oh. Ah, mama, my lado, ya mama, 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 ah, mama, moyedo, tiredo, yedo, ya mama, moita, dadum, tireda, mama, moyedo, tireda, oh, ah, mama, my lado, ya mama, moyedo. Mama moyedom, tido ya ilara ya mama yoyinam, tido ya mama mama yoyidom, tido ya mama tidam iladom. Tido yena iladum, tido ya mama mama yobo yena, tido ya iladai mama yobo yena. Oh, ta da 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 yedo itidam ay lado yedo yena ay lado. Oh, ita da yelado. Oh, inada yelado. Ay lado. Ay lado. Yo. That's neat. Powerful.
Yeah. You mentioned the Baal Shem Tov, you mentioned David HaMelech. You should also mention Moshe Rabbeinu, that Rebbe mentioned many times, especially in the last years, how Shavuos is connected with the personalities of Moshe, Yisrael, David. Moshe is Moshe Rabbeinu. Why is he connected to Shavuos? Because Shavuos is Matan Torah, and Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai. Yisrael is Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. He's connected to Shavuos because it's his Yortzeit, as we mentioned. David HaMelech also, it's his Yortzeit. And that I pointed out that Moshe Yisrael David is Rosh Hashanah, is an acronym miyad, immediately, that Mashiach should come immediately. The question is, though, why is it out of order chronologically? Because it should be Moshe, chronologically it should be Moshe, David, Yisrael. You can say, well, then it ruins the acronym. But that's a cynical answer. It's plotting a course. We're starting from Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai. Our people came into being when we really became who we are. When we became the Jewish people was when Torah was given. That's when everything changed. The nature of reality changed. Our identity changed. So the whole mission began from that moment, from Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai, when Moshe received the Torah. It ends, I don't mean end in a bad way, but culminates, comes to fruition with Mashiach, who is called Mashiach ben David, or sometimes called David himself, David Malka Mashiach. So Moshe is the beginning. David Malka Mashiach is the goal. I won't call it the end, I'll call it the goal. And the means to the goal, the way we accomplish the goal, is through Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. That, as we know, the Baal Shem Tov had an Aliyas and Neshama, he had an out-of-body experience. He went to Gan Eden, he met the soul of Mashiach in Gan Eden, and he asked the famous question. Cue up the song, but Eli, get ready. Emose Kosimar. This is a good tie-in. He asked me, Emose Kosimar, when is the Master coming? When is Mashiach going to come to the world? And Mashiach answered famously, when your wellsprings, Yisrael Baal Shem Tov's wellsprings, are spread out, chutza, all over. So the way to bring Mashiach is through the dissemination of the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, which is Torah Chassidus. So that's Moshe Yisrael David. That to get from Moshe, the beginning of our people, Matan Torah, to David, Malka Mashiach, Geula, the means is Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, Torah Baal Shem Tov.
Ay masai kosima leje yafutsu manasakha khutso ahayo ya hey masai kosima leje yafutsu manasakha khutso masai kosima leje yafutsu Masai kosima leche yafutso la Masai kosima leche yafutso kosima leche yafutso la Masai go oh my Masai say your words of Masai go Bosima say your words say your words la Masai osim li yeshayavot zo manasachut zo mahayo maya hey Masai kosimar li yeshayavot zo manasachut zo Masai kosimar li yeshayavot zo Masai kosimar li yeshayavot zo
I brought a toy, prop. Since I was mentioning Chavches Sivan, when the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin came to America in 1941, So I brought a little prop here. This actually was from downstairs on my desk in the studio. The SoulWords Studios is downstairs. That's in the restricted, authorized personnel only area. But I grabbed this, I brought this up here. I bought this globe because it spins on two axes. Usually globes just spin this way. But this one also spins this way. It spins both ways. So the reason I got it is because what you can do is, see, you're probably used to seeing a globe with the North Pole on the top, which is very arbitrary. Like, why should the North Pole be the top? What about it is the top? It's not the top. Eretz Yisrael is the top. What does it mean it's the top? It means that anywhere you leave from on the face of the earth and you go to Eretz Yisrael from that place, you're going up. That's why we call it Aliyah. Aliyah, you're going up to Eretz Yisrael. So Eretz Yisrael is the top. That's the top right there, okay? And if you have the top, so you have a top hemisphere. Normally, I know we're very conditioned, we're very brainwashed through Western education to think of northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, equator, all that stuff. Okay, I mean, that's a model. It's okay. It's not untrue, but it's not, for us at least, it's certainly not the most important model. The most important model is you have Eretz Yisrael on the top. Everything that's on the same side of the earth as Eretz Yisrael is called Chatzikadra Elyon, the top hemisphere. Everything that's on the reverse side is called Chatzikadra Hatachton, the underside of the lower hemisphere. So the Rebbe spoke about this idea that when he and the Rebbetzin came from Europe, Rebbe was born in Ukraine, in Nikolaev, and he grew up in Dnipropetrovsk, and he lived in Berlin, he lived in Paris. By the way, where did the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin ship leave port from? Portugal, very good, Lisbon, Portugal. What was the name of the boat? Serpa Pinta. Anyways, that stuff is all the top hemisphere. That's all top hemisphere stuff. And in fact, really, like all of Jewish history in the diaspora until very, very recently took place in the top hemisphere, because whether your ancestors left and went to Lithuania or Morocco or Yemen or Poland, it's still all the top hemisphere. It's all up here, okay? But when the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin left Europe and they went across the ocean, they came down to New York. New York is Chatzikadra Tachton, the lower hemisphere. I know that we say Australia is down under, but Australia is only down under if you put the north on the top, then the south is on the bottom. That's not accurate. Really, from the Jewish model, America is just as much down under as Australia. Australia also remains down under, but different part of down under. So the concept is, as the Rebbe explained it, leverage. Leverage is when you get up underneath something and you lift the whole thing from the bottom. It's a concept from the Alter Rebbe in Torah. The Alter Rebbe is discussing the concept of Yeridus and Neshama B'guf. Why does a soul even have to come into a body? What a terrible thing to have to happen to a soul. I mean, think about what a soul is, and think about what embodiment does to it. It's torture. It's absolute torture. And nevertheless, we see that apparently God thinks it's a good idea because he keeps doing it. Keeps putting souls in bodies. You know about the two guys in Chelm? One says, says, Chaim, seeing how difficult life is, I think it would be really better never to have been born. The other says, yeah, Maishi, but how many guys you actually know who are that lucky? 1 out of 1,000? How many guys you know were lucky enough never to have been born? Like everyone I ever met, they were born. So the soul comes down to a body, and it's a yerida. It's coming down, not physically. We're not talking in a spatial model of up and down. We mean up and down, meaning higher realms, lower realms, more refined and transparent, and those are the higher realms, and then the lower realms are opaque, where you see creation instead of creator. So the soul comes down into the body and experiences this concealment within a concealment, like a double bag. That's what it is. Because the nefesh elokis is inside of the nefesh habahamis. The nefesh elokis is a bit slabshus nefesh habahamis, and then the nefesh habahamis is a bit slabshus in the guf. Think about how frustrating that is. Yeah. So, yeah, it's very frustrating. And think about the soul, like up in heaven, what it was experiencing. Nenim is ivashchina, it's basking in rays of godliness. And then it comes down here, that gets completely drowned out by this really brash, like yucky physical stimuli, like the noise and the humidity. People are breathing too loud at the next table, the kind of. And it's very annoying and distracting. The tag in the back of your shirt, sensory issues, all that stuff. So the soul comes into a body. It's aggravating. It's it's not fun. But why does it do it? Because of a thing called leverage. That when you get up underneath something, the Alter Rebbe says you can lift a building, a whole building, if you get up underneath it. Now, if you grab the top of the building and lift, you cannot lift the building. You'll break off the top. But if you get underneath the building, you have leverage, you can lift the whole building from the bottom. So the soul, as much as it's pained by coming into a body, it does this in order to elevate all worlds. The only place where you can elevate all worlds is the lowest world. So similarly, in the lowest world itself, in the physical realm itself, there are further gradations of higher and lower. Higher means the place where Eretz HaKodesh, where the Holy Land is, and everything in its radius. And lower means the opposite of that, the opposite side. So the Rebbe said that his coming to New York was to start a new phase of getting up underneath from the bottom, engaging the world from the bottom up and lifting, and that's the only way to bring Mashiach. To bring Mashiach, you have to engage things from the bottom. From the bottom doesn't just mean geographically the lower hemisphere. It also means everything that represents culturally, the language and the style and the mentality of the lower hemisphere. It's very, very different. I mean, maybe it's so ubiquitous to us because we're so Americanized that we don't even realize how different it is, but it is very different. And yet, Mashiach can only come if the Jewish people get down into the trenches, into the lower hemisphere and all of its trappings and everything that entails, and work within that. So I was talking about before this idea of Sivan, the three, harmonization, peace, shalom, integration, synthesis between higher and lower. What this means is that you cannot cut off a part of yourself, ignore a part of yourself, exclude a part of yourself because it's too low, it's too crass, it's too mundane. That's like trying to lift the building by grabbing the top and pulling. You just break off the top and then the bottom remains behind. We have to engage and address all parts of ourselves. The physicality, the body, and the way the body is wired, the nervous system, the lowest parts of ourselves that don't even really respond to words. You can't even talk to them because they don't operate on a level of intellect. You can't tell the body, explain. It's like explaining something to a 2-year-old. Like, stop crying, it's okay. Like, but no, I'm scared, I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm hungry, tired, whatever. Can't. The words don't mean it. What you have to do is just hold the 2-year-old. Just hold the 2-year-old. Comfort the 2-year-old. Just calm their nervous system, stroke their back. And Torah Baal Shem Tov, is really this idea, or one of the main ideas of Torah Baal Shem Tov, is to find that part of us, our lowest self, our most physical self, and embrace it and comfort it and soothe it and bring it aboard, bring it into Avodas Hashem, instead of excluding it and judging it as unworthy. So really, this is I mentioned this is what Matan Torah is, because Matan Torah is the fusion of higher and lower, and that's happening to each and every one of us in microcosm. So the fusion of higher and lower means our holy self, the Nefesh Elokis, and our lower self, our traumas and our body and our physical wiring and our sensory processing issues, and the fact that somebody can't pay attention because it's too hot and he's wondering where's the air conditioning and all that stuff. If you were truly spiritual, you just sit here and you say, oh, someone's speaking Chassidus, and what do I care that I'm a little bit hot? And you certainly wouldn't notice the pickle, and you certainly wouldn't notice the jalapeno-flavored salmon or whatever that is. But here's the deal. Hashem did give you a body. He did put your soul into a body. And he does want you to have that part of you. Because to bring Mashiach, to express Hashem's infinity, the infinite cannot be relegated only to the spiritual. The infinite has to express itself in the most finite thing, which is the physical. So that's what we're doing. We're preparing ourselves and the whole world for wholeness, for shalom, for peace, completion, integration, synthesis, by getting down to the lowest realm and meeting it and being aware of it. It doesn't mean being schlepped down to it and following it and letting the Nefesh Habahamis run your life. God forbid. That's a disaster. But what it does mean is finding out what your Nefesh Habahamis is all about, what's wrong with it, why is it the way that it is, why is it resistant to what it's resistant to, why is it afraid of what it's afraid of, what happened to it, what do you need to do to make the Nefesh Habahamis more comfortable, to feel more soothed and more regulated, so it can be more receptive to its job, which is ultimately, the Nefesh Habahamis is a really super important job. It's to power the body so the body can do mitzvahs. And the Nefesh Elokis can't do that. Nefesh Elokis doesn't do mitzvahs on its own. Hangs out in heaven, enjoys the Pink Floyd Laser Light Show. It's a reference I always use. Nobody gets it. I'm going to keep on using it. Growing up in Chicago, there was at the Adler Planetarium. Somebody watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube and you get this reference, just please write in the comments that you get, in the chat, that you get this reference, and I'm going to send you a prize. That to be determined what that prize is, okay? How will I know who you are? That's a good question. You're going to have to email info@soulwords.org. You're going to send an email to info@soulwords.org. So they had a thing called the Pink Floyd Laser Light Show at Adler Planetarium. And basically that's where, I never did this, God forbid, but like teenagers would go and they would take chemicals to enhance the experience. And I don't even know if it's a real thing or an urban myth, but like that was considered like, it's like in the 80s, it was like the ultimate like amazing experience. You take acid and go to the Adler Planetarium and watch the Pink Floyd Laser Light Show. So that became embedded in my mind as like the most indulgent type of escapism. And so whenever I think about the soul being comfortable in heaven and experiencing all the Giluyim, I think about, take acid and go to Adler Planetarium and watch a Pink Floyd Laser Light Show. Come on, we got to get to work, get down into a body, and do some mitzvahs, do some serious work down here. So, by coming down to the lower hemisphere, the Rebbe started a new phase of dealing with the low stuff. The old world model is very much, I hope it's okay to say this, but to ignore the lower stuff. Like if a kid, for instance, doesn't want to do something. And so in the old world model, the old school style, the old country, kid says, but I don't want to. And what's the answer? First of all, he doesn't even dare say it. But if he says it, who cares? We don't care. That's very top down. That's above to below. Chatzi Kadre Tachte in the lower hemisphere, the kid says, but I don't want to. Doesn't mean he doesn't have to just because he doesn't want to. He still has to. But maybe as a parent, I can be curious, why doesn't he want to? Maybe there's something I can help him with. Maybe instead of just forcing him to do it, which I could, I'm bigger than him. I mean, until your kids are a certain size, you can basically physically force them to do stuff. And you could just do it. You just force them to do it. Now, what have you gained? Well, what you've gained is you dominated your child. You turn your back, you walk away. I promise you, not only they do not continue doing the thing you just forced them to do, they may even do the opposite. You didn't become part of them. You overrode their will, top down. So that's the old style. The new style is kid doesn't want to do something. Again, I'm just in case anyone accuses me of being woke or whatever that terrible thing is. God forbid. I'm not saying because a kid doesn't want to do something, they don't have to do it. What I'm saying is if a kid doesn't want to do something, maybe as a parent you can find out why. What's the resistance coming from? And if I could work with you and help you to overcome it, then you know what's happened? Instead of just forcing you to do it once while I'm forcing you, I helped you to actually overcome it. And now you can do it even when I'm not watching you. In fact, you could do it even when I don't ask you to do it. You'll do it on your own because you overcame that resistance. That's what Chatzi Kadre Tachte in microcosm means. It means that instead of just saying, ignore your lower parts, ignore your body, ignore your wiring, and just override it and force through it, power through it, which is the old world style, Chatzi Kadre Tachte means, let's talk about it. Doesn't mean you're exempt from doing what you need to do. You still have to get up and go daven. You still have to say Tillim Shabbos Mevorchim. You still have to do these things, but can we work with you? Can we work with you? Can we find out who you are? What's your story? What happened to you? How's your embodiment been going till now? And let's actually include your body in this whole journey over here. That's what Chatzi Kadre Tachte means. There's a famous story that Herman, I never thought about this. Herman woke. Oh, no. So Herman Wouk was a great American author, Pulitzer Prize winning author. You know, the coveted Pulitzer Prize, right? I saw a great line in Igris, in the Rebbe's letters, actually. There was a father whose daughter got engaged, and the Rebbe was telling him that he needs to speak to her about the birds and the bees from a Jewish perspective. Like, either he has to do it or he has to find a teacher to talk to her, but he has to speak to her about intimate life as a married woman, but from a halachic perspective. And so that it was, I don't want to get too off point because now I'm about to tell you the Herman Wouk story, but I thought of it because I said Herman Wouk won the Pulitzer Prize. So the Rebbe says to this father, don't give me that Baishonim stuff, that Yidden are Baishonim, Rachmana Baishonim Gemel Chasodim. The Gemara says that Jews, Beteva, are Rachmonim, that means compassionate. Baishonim means bashful or reserved, modest. And Gemel Chasodim, generous, philanthropic. So the Rebbe says, people love to say, I can't speak to my kids, my students about intimacy because Yidden are Baishonim. So it's very interesting what the Rebbe says. He says, the two of the three qualities actually are from Avram Avinu and one's from Matan Torah. Rachmonim and Gemel Chasodim is a Yerusha from Avram Avinu because Avram was a Rachman and a Gemel Chesed. So the kindness thing is from Avram. Baishonim came later, B'shas Matan Torah. So it's interesting. The Rebbe says the whole Baishonim thing, the whole modesty thing, only came at the time of Matan Torah. Therefore, it only is pertinent if it's not opposing Torah. So if you pull out the Baishonim card to exempt you from teaching any area of Torah, because you're squeamish about it, that's the opposite of the whole concept of why the Baishonos was given to us. So basically, the Rebbe was telling this guy, you got to teach your daughter, or hire someone, find someone, but you got to teach her about, intimate life. So this is why I brought it up, though. So the Rebbe says, in today's day and age, everybody's so open about everything. Everyone's so open. In fact, the more open they are, the more extolled they are. And then like a parenthesis that Rebbe said, this is I don't remember if it was a Hebrew or a Yiddish letter, but it's Hebrew or Yiddish. It's not English. I'm translating liberally right now. The Rebbe says that's what, and if they write a book and they put in pritzus means like, how would you translate it, Ellie? They know. You know what you remind me of when you say they know? There was a famous Supreme Court case. Forget who it was. Google it. But it was an obscenity case. It was about obscene material. So they were trying to define what's obscenity. Like, how do you define it? Like, what's the gather? So one of this famous quote from one of the Supreme Court justices. He says,
"I can't hide pornography, but I know when I see it."
Should I say it on the mic?
Pornography, but I know it when I see it. This is Oliver Wendell Holmes.
Who was it? It was Oliver Wendell Holmes. Very good. Oliver Wendell Holmes. Yeah, I cannot define it, but I know it when I see it. Okay. So I know it when I see it. At any rate, so no. This is a parenthesis within a parenthesis. So the Rebbe says that if someone writes a book today, if he fills it with pritzus, then everyone loves the book. They say he's a genius. And the more there's pritzus, then they'll give him a prize. So the Rebbe says, we could say maybe bederech tzachos, pritzus maloshin prizes, or prizes maloshin pritzus. Yeah. That if he'll write a book full of pritzus, they'll give him prizes. Okay. Pritzus and prizes. Yeah. So, yeah. Just remember that we're live streaming, by the way. Yeah. So Herman Wouk was a Pulitzer Prize-winning author, very, very successful author. And I'm not saying that Mitzad Gein Yankiv, Jewish pride, he really was one of the most successful, critically acclaimed, commercially successful authors of the 20th century, and it happened to be he was a Shabbos observant Jew his entire life. He grew up, I think, in the Bronx, and it was in a time when very, very few American Jewish families were Shomer Shabbos. It was extremely rare. Even the so-called Orthodox at that time were not really so observant. It was a very difficult time. Coming down to the lower hemisphere, a lot of Yiddishkeit was lost or given up, unfortunately. So Herman Wouk, grew up Shabbos observant. He remained Shabbos observant his entire life. And so he was like this rare, truly Orthodox Jew who was a real American and successful in American culture to the extent of probably being one of the most like archetypically American authors of the 20th century. So he met the Rebbe. He was... on the Rebbe's 70th birthday, so Nixon, who was president at the time, he had to give somebody the presidential birthday greetings to bring to the Rebbe, so Herman Wouk was the one who was given that job. And so he brought the Rebbe the presidential birthday wishes. At any rate, so Herman Wouk is speaking to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is talking about his agenda for American Jewry and this religious revival that the Rebbe has planned out. And this is in the 70s. So, this is 20 years after the Rebbe started, the Rebbe took over officially the title of Rebbe. So there's still a lot to be done, but there was already much that had been accomplished. The Rebbe had established a lot of the outreach and the campaigns, the mivtzoyim, shlichus. So at any rate, so Herman Wouk is meeting with the Rebbe, and he's saying, Lubavitcher Rebbe, with all due respect, the Rebbe is coming from the old world, Chatzi Kadra Elyon, the Rebbe is from Eastern Europe. And Herman Wouk is an American boy. He grew up in the Bronx. He knows, he was in the American army. Like, he knows this culture. He's from here. The Rebbe is an immigrant. He doesn't know the territory. He's new. So Herman Wouk says, Lubavitcher Rebbe, with all due respect, like, I know the American Jews. I grew up with, I am one of them. Do you really think that you can tell American Jews to do anything? And the Rebbe says, no, you cannot tell American Jews to do anything. But you can teach them to do everything. And I think that is the encapsulation of Chatzi Kader HaTachton. The Chatzi Kader Elyon, top-down authoritarian model of religion or of parenting or of whatever, is I can make you do whatever I need to make you do. I'll break you if I have to. What'll happen afterwards? Not my business. Chatzi Kader HaTachton, the American style, is I don't want to break you. I don't want to force you. I want to educate you. I want to work with you. And if there's any resistance in you, let's work through it. Let's work together. Let's figure out what it is and overcome it. And then when I remove myself, it's not that you're going to go running wild because now the teacher left the classroom. You're going to continue to behave like a mensch because it's really you. It wasn't imposed upon you. It was nurtured and brought out of you from bottom up. That's what Chatzi Kader HaTachton is. And it's not just parenting and education, and outreach and rabbis. It's all that too. It's also our relationship with ourselves. You can power through it and ignore your body, ignore your nefesh bamis, and just be a good boy and do what you're supposed to do. And I'm not saying no. Sometimes willpower is the only tool in our spiritual toolkit that works at that moment. I'm not saying never to do it. What I'm saying is that can't be the only tool. And once in a while, you do have to figure out if the animal soul and the body are resisting for whatever reason. Maybe it's a good reason. Maybe somebody ruined some aspect of Yiddishkeit for you. Should you ignore it, or should you address it and work through it? Get over it. Get beyond it. Chatzi Kader HaTachton means that we're going to acknowledge whatever it is that's going on inside of us, even the lower stuff, and we'll deal with it. It can all be dealt with. It can all be dealt with. We don't have to shy away from it. We don't have to be baishonim and pretend it doesn't exist. Before this Farbrengen, we had the young Jewish professionals here from Manhattan. Chabad young Jewish professionals from Manhattan. And somebody asked me a question. It was questions. It was like difficult questions. That was the theme, difficult questions. So one of the questions was, how come there's some crazy stories in the Bible, like, coming up to Shavuos, so like the book of Ruth. So you have Ruth and Boaz, and if you know that story, it's a little bit racy. It's it's at least PG-13, probably R-rated if you really understand what it. I mean, depends which Meforshim you read. So I know it when I see it. So or like. So the young woman asking the question says, but David HaMelech comes ultimately from that union. And she says, and in fact, you go back further, Yehuda and Tamar. Again, David HaMelech, Mashiach comes from that union. So she's saying we have like all these like questionable pritzos. We have this like, not such, it's whatever. It doesn't appear to be so wholesome. And yet, that's where Mashiach comes from. And she said a really good line, which I'm not going to repeat on the live stream, but she said a really good line. At any rate, so I said to her, but that's exactly the point of Mashiach. Mashiach isn't dira be'elyonim, it's dira be'tachtonim. It's not about refining the spiritual. Spiritual is already refined. Mashiach is when the earth becomes holier than heaven, to the point where souls come back to bodies. Souls who are in Gan Eden right now will take a U-turn and come back into bodies. Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection, one of the 13 principles of faith, because the physical will be so refined. And in order to refine the physical, we got to deal with the physical. And we have to deal with the lower levels, aspects of ourselves. And yeah, since the Chet Eitz Hadas, the primary wound that was inflicted in the human psyche from the time of the sin of the tree of knowledge was in this area of intimacy. And that's where the healing has to take place. And healing that area is precisely what brings Mashiach. And if you want to bring Mashiach and avoid all that aspect of human nature and pretend it doesn't exist, that's Chatzi Kadra Elyon. It's not Chatzi Kadra Tachton. Chatzi Kadra Tachton is that we deal with all this stuff, and obviously in a modest way, in a non-exhibitionistic way. You have to use your common sense, but we don't have to shy away from anything. We don't have to be afraid of anything. That's the harmony. That's the shalom. Ellie, what do you think musically right now? What are you feeling? Is anything speaking to you? Anything?
There is.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Could you explain it, or you just want to do it and we should figure out the connection?
I think it's
Self-explanatory? Okay, I'm excited.
Haneshama yoredes l'sovaboy chagu yavetzo yekes yevay yevay yavetzo yekes yevay 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 yerido zon l'tzoyrech aliyom ויד שכל זה הוא חדאי ירידו זוי לצוירך עלייה ויד שכל זה הוא חדאי הנשמה ירדס לסוב ירגו ויארצו יקל ויארצו יקס ואי 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 ירידו זוי לצוידך עליו ויד שכל זה הוא חדאי ירידו זוי לצוידך עליו עד שכל זה הוא חדאי.
I'm looking in the live chat and seeing if anybody knew the reference. Somebody wrote in the chat, 11 p.m. sound curfew. Yeah. They had a laser light show in Hayden Planetarium in New York City, too. No, that's not. No. It's an interesting information. Yeah, fun fact.
There's another niggin, Mipnei Ma. I don't know. Not sure if I can sing it, but there's a recording from 1912.
Oh wow.
1912, 1913, in the Beregovsky collection of a Yid in Ukraine.
I don't know, is that supposed to be known?
No, it's not so known.
What does that mean?
Beregovsky was I forget the term, but some kind of ecologist who collected Jewish music, traveled all around Ukraine and Russia and the Pale of Settlement, I think, and recorded people singing Nigunim.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the Nigunim that he recorded is this Nigun Mipnei Ma. It's something Mipnei Ma Yordan Shama Lemato Mipnei Ma Yordan Shama Lemato Meigro Igor, I remember the tune exactly. Yeah, you know it? If I know
We're
it,
not
I
going
could
to call
sing
you
it.
out. So the word Mipnama, why? For what reason? You're the
Mikra
neshama
mikta.
lamata. Why does the neshama come below?
Right.
Migra Rama, from a high peak.
Bira mikta.
Labira mikta, to a low pit.
Aliyah, Yeridu l'tzerech Aliyah. I think that's the...
Descent for the sake of a subsequent greater ascent. Very similar. To,
Yeah, same concept.
It's a Chassidish nigun in its origin.
Probably.
Sounds, it has that
Yeah.
tom, the words at least. I won't speak for the musically if it has,
Right.
that's your area, but
Yeah.
the lingo is definitely a Chassidish lingo. Yeah, sure.
You talk a lot and you spoke beautifully about, engaging the body and Lord, Aliyah Tachton, and
Yeah.
really spell it out and this clear.
Really clear.
Okay, so I have the struggle
Yeah.
that you said, trauma, but let's just say everyday human experience.
Yeah.
What are we saying? Do it for Hashem? Are we saying Torah? Are we going down the route just learn Torah and that will solve your mental health issues? Are we going down the route okay, you have addiction problems, but just the neshama is going to take you out? I don't know. Let's not even go so extreme. Let's just keep it simple. Spell it out. We talk so much about okay, so we understand how to take money and donate it to Soul House or SoulWords.
Yeah, for sure. That's the most important thing.
We should do a plug.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
It's a beautiful space. And we understand how but on a day-to-day struggle, right? Struggling with your children, struggling with your marriage, struggling with finances.
Right.
So is it just that there's a spiritual overlay? It sounds like no. It sounds like we really want Torah there. We really want Abishah there, but it just seems still a little hazy. Okay, so what should I do now?
So
I'm convinced. What do you want me to do?
let's talk about before we describe what it looks like to do it right. Let's talk about what happens when you don't do it right. Not because you necessarily did anything wrong, but you just didn't do anything. You didn't know it was a thing. It's very common that somebody will wake up one day, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, and they did everything they were supposed to do, went through the motions, and all of a sudden they're questioning, what is this all about? Do I even care about this? Does this mean anything to me? Am I living a lie? I'm talking about Yiddishkeit. It's always very shocking, tragic to me when that happens. And I've had many people tell me they've had that kind of experience. And you think to yourself, oh, you're 40, you're 50, you're 60. And these are people where it's they're waking up one day and realizing I'm so divorced from whatever my true self may be. I don't even feel like it's me. I don't feel like this is my life. I'm looking back at my life, I don't even feel like I was there. How does that even happen? How does that even happen? And some of these people crash and burn. Other people just keep forcing themselves along the way they've been forcing themselves because there's too much to lose now. What are they supposed to do? They have grandchildren. It's not just stay married for the kids. This is more like the grandchildren, great-grandchildren. What are you supposed to do? So how did that even happen? Or another example of this, where someone will have an upheaval in their life, some acute trauma, some disaster, crisis, whatever, and it knocks them out of their rhythm, and all of a sudden everything falls apart. How is it possible that I understand they experience something big, a loss or whatever it is, but one event should all of a sudden topple the whole structure? What I'm saying is they built a life, they built an identity, a way of doing things, and all of a sudden one thing happens and it's everything falls apart. How is your life that you built so fragile that any event, even a big event, but one event could just topple the whole thing. So what those examples are people who never engaged their full self. They did what they're supposed to do. They were able to get the reaction that they wanted to get from the people, usually starting with your parents and then other authority figures. And it worked. They got the reactions they wanted. They were rewarded. I'm not talking about spiritual reward. I'm saying the social rewards. They played the part. And they never asked themselves. In fact, not only never asked themselves, they scoffed at the question of, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this me? Is this natural to me? Does this speak to my talents? Is this a challenge for me? They never had that experience. They never actually allowed themselves the honesty to say, I loathe saying Tehillim on Shabbos Mevorchim. It's a very rare person who will say that. And I'll tell you why. And I'm saying it. I loathe saying Tehillim on Shabbos Mevorchim. Very few people will say that. And I'll tell you why. Because the people who do say Shabbos Mevorchim, so say Tehillim, don't loathe it. The people who would loathe it don't say it. Very few people who find it miserable. They find it grueling, and they still do it. So to have that self-awareness that something is hard for you, I'll give you another example. Very common example where usually a parent will call me about a bacher. Usually the bacher is not the one who calls. Usually a parent will call. And it's okay. Don't worry. You can walk in front of the camera. What's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to find out there's people here? It's okay. It's okay. It's better for me. So I don't look like I'm speaking to myself. It's okay. Yeah, you show the... No, it's fine. It's fine. It's all spontaneous. It's a natural, not a controlled set over here. It's not Hollywood. So a father or mother will call and say, I got a problem. It's a very common call. I have this, like, if I would answer my phone more, it would be even more, but at least once a week. I generally answer my phone when I'm in the car, because that's when I can talk. That's why I have a lot of those red light tickets also, by the way. The camera tickets. Yeah. Oh, camera tickets? At least $1,000 a month in camera tickets. I'm very serious. Very serious. That's the New York tax. By the way, I say that's why punishment doesn't work. Extrinsic motivators don't work. I did? Okay. All right. Well, I'm consistent because I believe it. So the parent will call up and they'll say, my kid's going to get thrown out of yeshiva because he can't get up, doesn't wake up. And he's now he's home. They told him don't come back. Now he's home, and now when he's home, he's now he really doesn't get up. Now he's up all night, and it's like, okay, I'm not here to talk about how a yeshiva should be run. I couldn't run one. I'm in awe of anyone who even attempts to run one. I'm going to say something that sounds like I'm making a joke. I'm not making a joke. I couldn't run one poorly, so I certainly don't judge people who run them poorly. I don't. I really don't. It sounds like I'm being snide. I'm not. As someone who runs a yeshiva poorly, I couldn't run it poorly. Okay? Okay? So all right? I am not giving any criticism, all right? What is interesting to me, though, Oh, Yisrael is back. Oh, okay. You have the little. Yeah, it's fine.
Just established that you're allowed to.
Yeah, just a minute ago we established it's okay to walk in front of the camera. So it's like, okay, set aside the fact that yeshiva has to have rules and has to have structure, and anything that involves large groups of people has to have certain regulations to keep things orderly. But it's like, why are we pretending that somebody who biologically is inclined to be awake at night and not to be so chipper early in the morning, why pretending that that's a moral issue? Like, why is that a sign of not caring about God? It's the attitude of like, look, we don't care what your story is. We don't care how Hashem himself wired your mind and your body. This is what we're doing. Do it. And if you don't, then that's it. We have no way to accommodate. And again, I'm not judging because I don't know how they would honestly, how they would do it in practice, in actual practice, how they would operate such a yeshiva. But what I'm saying is that the Baal Shem Tov is 300 years ago already. The Baal Shem Tov told us 300 years ago already that we have to address the animal, that when the donkey is crushing under its load, you should help the donkey, the chamayr, lashon chaymer, the materiality, the body. The donkey means the body. Help it. Because before the Baal Shem Tov, there were people who were like, if I break my body, good, and I'll get rid of it. It's been causing me too much trouble. I'll break it. That's good. Baal Shem Tov came and said, don't break it. Don't break your body. So you have somebody who clearly, what I'm saying is don't call it prikus oil when it's not prikus oil, because when you tell someone that they're a pyrrhic oil, they begin to believe you. When you label something that is a issue of the body and you make it a moral issue, then they believe you. And then what happens, you know, Amol, like Chassidim say, once upon a time, seine chassidische Bacher is given a madrega. Chassidische Bacher was a title that implied a certain level. Not just everybody is called a chassidische Bacher, but you have to really be on the level. But today, who's a chassidische Bacher? Anyone who claims the title. And I'm not saying that as a lament. I'm not saying what has become with the title chassidische Bacher. Anyone who wants to call himself chassidische Bacher gets to be one. I'm saying it as a truth, as a fact. Today, who's an artist? Anyone who calls himself, calls himself an artist, exactly, correct. And therefore, what is the stupidest thing that you could do? What? Go to a studio and rehearse. Are you any kind of artist? Why don't you go rent a studio and rehearse and get yourself practice and get yourself a gig, instead of being down here ruining the day for everybody, end of the day for everybody. So one of the most important places in North America. Who are you? You any kind of artist? Anyone know who you are? If anyone knows, I went to NYU Film School, and I earned the right to say it. Sucker. I went to New York, NYU Film School, San Francisco Academy of the Arts. You're never going to be anything. So anybody who knows this reference, please write in the comments. What? Douglas Levinson. Maybe well. So Chassidus Shabacher is today anyone who calls himself one, anyone who claims the title. So therefore, what's the stupidest thing that anyone could ever do? Is to inform someone who's claimed the title that they've done so unrightfully. You murdered that person. You murdered them. If a guy comes into Zal and thinks he's a Chassidus Shabacher and he's wearing Crocs, and you tell him, Chassidus Shabacher, you're not a Chassidus Shabacher, you're wearing Crocs. You just murdered him because he'll believe you. He'll believe you. And now, because he didn't even know what he was doing was not Chassidus Shabacher, and you just took the title away from him, okay, so I guess I'm not. So there goes Rambam, there goes Mivtzoyim, and eventually, Midechi al Dechi, really, who says what's in place to stop this descent until it goes into basic Shabbos, Kashrus, Tefillin, why not? It is an absolute spiritual murder to tell someone that they are not a Chassidus Shabacher. Because by doing so, you force them to identify with their lower self. We all have a lower self. We all have a Yetzer Hara that's capable of every Avera in Torah. You know the story of Rabbi Dr. Twersky, Olav Shalom, that Shia Twersky, Abraham J. Twersky. So he had to take some type of a test in the hospital, some type of personality test. Anyways, the question was, are you capable of murder? So he wrote yes. So they took him aside, and they were like, we need to talk to you because you said you're capable of murder. Like, that's a red flag. Like, you can't be like working in a hospital, you're capable of murder. So he's like, I am. Yeah, I answered. I am capable of this. Well, why do you think you're capable of murder? Like, what? Why are you judging yourself that way? So he says, because Torah says, don't murder. And Torah is speaking to me. So if it tells me not to do it, it wouldn't tell me not to do it if it's not something that I need to be told, don't need to be told. So obviously, yeah, I'm capable of doing it. Okay, so that's a healthy adult who knows he's not a murderer. But when you take someone aside and you say to him, by the way, you are your lower desires. You are that part of you that wants unwholesome things. That's you. That's your identity. Why would you do that? We all have that part of us. We all have a Yetzer Hara. But Chassidus teaches us not to identify with it. That is not who I really am. Who am I really? Like the Rebbe always would quote the Rambam in Hilchos Gerushin and the laws of divorce about the guy that they beat him up to give a get. And how could it be they beat him up? They forced him, and a get has to be by the husband's free will. So the Rambam says it is his free will, because if it's a case where Torah mandates he has to give the get, so every Yid wants to do what Torah says, and the fact that he's not doing it is Yetzer Hara is in the way, so we remove his Yetzer Hara from him so he can do what he really wants to do. We're not making him do what he doesn't want to do. We're helping him to do what he really wants to do. And I would always bring that as an example of you are, meaning your identity is your higher self. So when somebody is using a title like Chassidus Shabacher or whatever title and is doing so because they're identifying with what's holy, what's a higher standard, and then you come to them and say, no, let me point out this part of you, this aspect of you that proves that you're not. No, that's not what you are. You just murdered that person. Unless, hopefully, they will know not to believe you. But that's very rare, because usually the scenario is you have an adult speaking to a child, person in authority speaking to someone who's under his authority, and so the child just hears it, listens, accepts it. Okay, I guess I got the memo. I guess you're right. And if you don't, if you think I'm exaggerating, then I can tell you at least 100 examples that I personally know of children who were spiritually murdered this way. So my point is not to go on a rant about this topic. My point was, you asked, what is Chatzi Kader Tachtin in Avodah? What does it mean to address the lower part? To address the lower part means that instead of pretending that the model of excellence is the person who can successfully compartmentalize himself to the point where I don't even have that part of me. It doesn't even exist. Taivas, I never heard of them. Never happened. Never even happened. No, never. I was never even triggered. I never even noticed. That's called success. There's a whole book by the Alter Rebbe called Sefer Shel Beinanim about a guy who has taivas, and the Alter Rebbe describes it. He says he has taivas noshim, taivas haniyuf. He has all of the, and you know what? He overcomes it. And not only he doesn't do it in Maisa B'Poel, he doesn't speak that way, what they call locker room talk. He doesn't think that way, meaning fantasizing, not willful thinking. It could pop up in his mind, but he'll be deiche b'shtei yadayim, he'll push it away, he won't allow himself to dwell on it. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't notice, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have that inclination. But when we pretend that holiness is a guy who basically takes that whole aspect of human nature, which we all know we have from the Chet Eitzadas, and you put it in a box, you lock it shut with 20 padlocks and pretend it doesn't exist, who are you helping? And then what happens? That's the guy, when he's 40, 50, 60, calls me and says, my whole life's been a lie. Well, it hasn't been a lie. I happen to be a God-fearing Jew, or a religious Jew. I believe that living a frum life is a good thing. I don't think you should regret that you lived that way. I think what you should regret is that you didn't live that in an integrated way, that the way that you did it was by chopping off a whole part of yourself, ignoring it, hoping it would not rear its head. And then finally, when something happened where it did express itself, you didn't even know what to do with it. I swore in front of some students. So, not kids, adults, but they were like really, really upset about it. So, I'm not going to say exactly where or when this happened, and I'm not going to do it now because we're being recorded and I can just see the people on WhatsApp taking the clip. And so they asked me about it, like, hey, and, I thought about it. I said, I'm sorry for like offending or shocking you, I really am, but I don't regret speaking that way. And I'll tell you what, and I could be corrected. I've learned things in my life. I've found out that I've been wrong about things, so I don't mind finding I'm wrong about this. But this is the truth as I understand it today. So I said, all the great mashpiyim used to have a dirty mouth. It's just a fact. I mean, the archetype of it was Zalman Moshe. Mendel Futterfass is mashpia. Zalman Moshe, he was known as speaking very grub. In fact, it was known that a lot of people could not handle his Farbrengens. In Neville, he would take mashka and he would speak very grub. What is grub? Russian curse words, and a lot of people were sensitive and they would leave. They couldn't take it. They would leave. And it was like sort of a vetting process. And then he would, get down in Farbrengen with whoever was left. But there's a reason for this. There's a book called The Spirituality of Imperfection by Ernest Kurtz. I'm not recommending people go out and buy it because even though it has Baal Shem Tov stories in it, Lahavdil, it has stories from other religions, and I don't think that a Jew needs to read stories from other religions. But Ernest Kurtz was a scholar of the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. He wrote a famous book called Not God, about the spirituality of recovery. And I was in touch with him. He used to call me to verify Chassidish stories. When he had a new Chassidish story, he wanted to make sure it was a real one, he would call me up. And so in the spirituality of imperfection, which again, I'm not telling you to go out and read it, but one of the areas that he explores is profanity, and how there's a link between real spiritual work and profanity. And I was speaking to him about it, and I said, again, I'm being recorded, so out of sensitivity and respect for people who are listening who would lose respect for me, I'm monitoring and filtering. I'm always monitoring and filtering. I mean, obviously, like not in a deceitful way, but more like in a respectful way. Obviously, you have to respect the people you're communicating with. So, but The truth is, it's not a bug, it's a feature. The use of the strategic use, not the gratuitous use, but the strategic use of profanity, potty humor, scatological reference, and all ilchadema as part of a vaida. Because if you can't go to that place, if we can't go to chatzikadra tachtein of the microcosm, of the self, so what are you doing? You're preaching to the converted. It's like you want to talk to the Nefesh Elokis about God. That's what it already wants. It wants God. You need to speak to the Nefesh Bahamas. You need to speak to the animal soul about God. And you have to speak to the Nefesh Bahamas in a language that it understands. And sometimes you have to drop a few choice, peppery expressions so that the animal soul understands how you're speaking. So what I'm saying is, what does it look like, Chazikad Tachten in a Veda? What it looks like is that not, and again, you have to have seichel, because some people are so exhibitionistic. The minute you tell them that they should be vulnerable, they're like, oh, be really vulnerable? No, you're being titillating. You're being an exhibitionist. You're intentionally provoking people's voyeurism. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about vulnerability in the sense of just be real. Just be real. Like the Mashpiyim always claim that at a Farbrengen, the Mashpiyah says, I'm just speaking to myself. I'm just speaking to myself. Okay, then really speak to yourself. Speak to your Nefesh Bahamas the way you really speak to your Nefesh Bahamas. And if you'll think about it, all of the real Mashpiyim, the effective ones, the ones who actually have Talmidim long after they leave yeshiva, people who actually as adults will come to this person and ask them real questions of marriage and parenting and business and how to do tshuva when you mess up. Those guys all had a certain rough around the edges quality. Always. They weren't the flying in the sky, mufshot. They were the guys who were real. So Chatzikane Tachten and Aveda means to be able to discuss spirituality in graba Asius. And to not shy away from, not be shocked, not be a prude, or like the Rebbe said in the letter that I mentioned earlier, not be a baishon shalei b'mkaimai.
Could basically cause one's, the downfall of one's Jewish soul. Wouldn't the reverse also then be true? That a single event could bring it up?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. One event could create an upheaval. I saw a letter of the Rebbe like that, actually. I was sitting a half a block from here. I was sitting in the trailer on Francis Lewis Boulevard with a young man and a young woman who were hostages in Gaza and who were freed, Baruch Hashem. And we spoke about a lot of things, but one of the things we spoke about is there's a letter from the Rebbe, and he writes about when somebody has something really negative happen in their life, it shakes them up. But you could also be shaken up by something positive. It was interesting because I was speaking to them and I was talking about Mashiach. And I said, when Mashiach comes, everything's going to be perfect. And they said, it's so interesting. So this young woman who had spent hundreds of days as a hostage in Gaza, she says, but if we won't have troubles anymore, how will we grow? Okay, so I said, it's interesting you say that. And I showed her the letter. I actually had the letter on me. The Rebbe says that an upheaval will definitely, because she was someone who had zero Jewish education, unfortunately. And then when she came out of her hostage situation, she became spiritually thirsty. So she said, if we don't have negative experiences, how will we grow? So I showed her this letter from the Rebbe that said that it could be from a positive experience. You can have something that's inordinately positive can also shake up your life in a good way. No, it happens to you. No, there's no way to trigger it. It happens to you, which is why it's not a prescription, because you don't control it. It either happens or it doesn't happen. You can't make it happen. Can't make it happen. Which is why it's not the regular course of Avodah. Thanks for coming. You came just for the Farbrengen, or you were at the aisle and you heard there was a Farbrengen? Oh, this is your hachanas for the aisle. Very good. Very good. So when you walk out, look at the picture, not that picture, but on the other side of the wall, the picture of the Rebbe coming out of the aisle. If you look behind the Rebbe, you can see the houses on Francis Lewis Boulevard, and you can see the corner of 228th and Francis Lewis. You can see, as you're, now you don't see this house, but you see the street. So when you're coming in from the street, the picture of the Rebbe has that street in the picture. That's why it was chosen. It was strategically placed there. Thanks for coming. Shais ben Rivka. Yitzchak, you hear? Shais ben Rivka. When you're by the Rebbe. I'll text it to you right now. I'm going to text it to you.
Scatological Megan. How's it go? No, Chassadim and the Snagid. How's it go?
Frag the Masnaga by Mchassid. Who was got that one? That one?
Not that one. No. Was men torni, tormeni, dan shedei tzei nafshay. No? Anybody? No, this one? Or from Mendel Morozov? Perek Mishnayis. You don't know it?
We're going to learn it. We're going to learn it. Yeah.
I don't know it. If I would have prepared, I would have known that we've gone into this territory.
Hmm? What? No, asked it of. Yeah. It's a good question. I guess so.
Huh?
Just come out here and make the bracha. What? Okay, we have to find out. But for sure, I found out not to put a mezuzah there. And there's also, it's less of a shiloh, but upstairs, that little sink area before the half bath, also not to put a mezuzah. There's a story that Ellie reminded me of recently. I'm not going to get into the whole background, why it came up. It was a discussion Ellie and I were having about something. It doesn't matter. None of your beeswax. Yeah.
Oh.
Ellie Marcus. The story is, it doesn't matter why it came up. Okay? It's confidential. At any rate, the story is like this. It's not such a story, but the punchline is a heck of a punchline. Reb Shlomo Karliner came to the Alter Rebbe. And after he left, the Alter Rebbe said that certain Talmidim should escort the Karliner, at least part of the way. And one of the Chassidim who went to escort him was Binyamin Kletzker. So Rabbi Binyamin was a big maskil, very deep in his understanding of Chassidus, and he appreciated depth. And obviously, the Alter Rebbe was known for Chabad. He started Chabad, which is depth. But the Karliner, I guess he felt like he was impressed with Rabbi Binyamin. He wanted to attract him, and so he told him very deep Seidas HaTorah, deep secrets of Torah, which were very, very alluring, enthralling. And it was like this whole trip, many days. And in fact, at one point, they spent Shabbos together. There's a part of the story where the horses got lost. Binyamin said, "I'm lost. I don't know. I don't recognize this area." And the Karliner said, "Don't worry about it." And he let go of the reins, and the horses perfectly brought them to the place where they were supposed to go. And which was a moifis, it was a miracle, and the Karliner was doing various different mofsim, different miracles. So he was showing miracles, and he was teaching deep Torah, and Rabbi Binyamin was impressed. He was duly impressed with this, and that was the point. That was the intention, was to impress him. At any rate, what was basically happening is that the Karliner was trying to get Rabbi Binyamin to become his chassid, and I think at one point he even just asked him straight up. And so Rabbi Yomin says to the Karliner, let's see if I can say it right. Ellie's going to help me. Pan to pan na nie mój. The master is a master, but not mine. Chlopitz to chlopitz na nie toy. Tvoi. The lad is a lad. The boy is a boy, but not yours. Which basically means you are a Rebbe. You're a legitimate Rebbe. You're not a faker. You're not a fake Rebbe. Just pause. Maimer Musker about fake Rebbes. The Divrei Yoel, Rabbi Yoelish, the Satmarov, had a special disdain for charlatans. What? What? No, he had a special disdain for Pelisher Rebelach. That's what he referred to them as, who were like fakers. So somebody asked him once, but we see that they give brachas, and the brachas and makuyim. People go to these guys and it comes true. So he says, I'll tell you a story. Once upon a time, the treasurer of the king got a bill for a hotel. And he knows that's what a chassid means. A chassid means somebody who expresses loyalty to a rebbe. So he says, I am a chassid. I am such a person who's given myself over into such a relationship, but I'm not yours. Not giving myself over to you. So, thank you, Ellie, for reminding me, making me think of that story. Can you say the punchline nicely? Because you say it much nicer. You say the whole line.
I think you said it very well.
No, I didn't. I said it with...
Pan nonya moi. Chlopitz to chlopitz nonya tvoi.
So you say it so much nicer. Are you sure you're from California? Really? California boy? You speak like that?
Yeah. In
Very
previous
impressive.
Google, I was...
Very impressive. So, Hillel Paracha said that Volt Shlomo HaMelech gewen a Chassid, Volt geschrieben Shir HaShirim, nicht wegen Ish wie Isha, nor wegen a Rebbe und a Chassid. That if Shlomo HaMelech would have been a Chassid, then when he wanted to give a mashal for the intimate relationship between Bnei Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, instead of writing it about a romantic relationship between a husband and a wife, he would have written aspect of his kashrus that needs to be spoken about. Speaking of Chatzikader Tachton and getting down and dirty, I think we have to understand that a Rebbe Chassid relationship is an intimate relationship. It's intimate in many ways. Intimate in the sense that you can tell the Rebbe anything. When people come here to the SoulWords House, a lot of times we have groups come here to prepare for going into the Rebbe, which the Rebbe said is Yechidus. It's a one-on-one meeting with the Rebbe, and people ask, what should I write? And I tell them, the stuff that you're afraid to tell your therapist? Yeah, that stuff is what you should write. And in the end, you tear it up because it's nobody else's business. So it's an intimate relationship in the sense that, you can tell the Rebbe everything, mamish everything. It's also intimate in the sense that it inherently needs to be monogamous. And if you understand it as a marriage, as a romantic relationship, then you understand why it needs to be monogamous. And therefore, Rabbi Yomin told the Karliner, like, I was going to say I'm a married man, but really in the mashal, it would be like a married woman, because like in Shira Shirim, Hashem is the husband, the Yidden are the wife. And there's a reason why one is called masculine, one is called feminine. It's about mashpia, makabel, giver and recipient. But yeah, I'm a married woman. Like, leave me alone, please. You're a wonderful guy. You've got a lot of qualities, but I'm in an exclusive relationship, and it's not appreciated. So Yechidus, a meeting with a Rebbe, Yechidus, one-on-one, it's an intimate thing. Meeting somebody one-on-one in the deepest possible way, from your Yechida to the Yechida. And it's not something to be taken lightly. And I'm not trying to scare people off, and I'm not trying to make people feel, less than or judged. But I do want you to consider something. I want you to consider that we're talking about marriage here. And marriage is serious. And there are many people who are inspired by the Rebbe, which is wonderful. Many people who make it a point to incorporate in their Yiddishkeit various teachings of the Rebbe or initiatives of the Rebbe, and that's very good. And then there's being a chassid, and being a chassid means getting married, and getting married is kiddushin, meloshin kedusha, which means separate, kadosh umuvdal, that you are separating yourself from the rest of the world, and you are exclusively connecting yourself to this one person. And I think it's an important aspect of Yiskashrus that we need to speak about. And it should be understood why people would be hesitant to go to other Rebbes, and not because I'm saying that they're fake. No, Rabbi Yomin told the Karliner, you're legitimate, you're the real deal. In fact, maybe Fakert, if he didn't think the Karliner was a real Rebbe, okay, whatever, fine, then we're just stam, we're playing a game. But he said, no, you are a real Rebbe. You are. And that's why I have to be on guard and protect my intimate relationship, Yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but it seems to me that what's the Karliner doing when we get
Yeah, I don't know. Especially the way I'm telling it really makes it sound so out of pocket.
He's a real Rebbe.
Yeah.
So that's what's, I don't get.
Who knows? I don't know. Maybe it was testing him, Who knows? But Binyamin said the right thing. That's what a chassid should say. Not just what he should say, it's how he should feel. So, I don't know. I'm self-censoring because I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm speaking on a live stream, so be careful what WhatsApp clips go out. But you know what I want to say?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like,
No, Chaim, we can leave it for. We'll leave it for more will be revealed. No, we don't have to say. Als darf man sagen. At least not all at once. Yeah. Ellie, you know what I'm talking about?
Zusha,
Manipoli.
the real Zusha?
You said you have Nigunim from the Mezritcha Magid. Yeah? You told me you have Nigunim from the Mezritcha Magid.
There are. I don't have.
Oh, you don't have.
You
They
didn't give me-
exist.
You didn't give me advance warning. There are. Well, this takes the whole Chatzi Kadra Tachten, if I want to bring it into the musical conversation. Speaking of, whatever, we're sticking to, my impression was we're going to stick to Nigunei Chabad in this particular broadcast. There are Nigunim that are attributed to the Maggid of Mezrich, but they are not part of the Chabad repertoire in the Chabad canon of songs, Nigunim. Other Talmidei Hamelech. There's a lot of other Nigunim from Rabbi Michal Zlotcher. Some say that Bnei Chala is a composition of the Rabbi Michal Zlotcher. Which other Talmidei? I'm sure there's other Nigunim of the Talmidei Baal Shem. There's the Chazan of Zaslav. Was he a Talmud of the Matal of Zaslav? Talking about? But yeah. Oh yeah, the Shpal Zayda. We forgot about the Shpal Zayda. Talmud put his hand. Baal Shem Tov put his hand on the Shpal Zayda's heart. And since then, he's had a.
To your point, though, about this, you have to identify any or a single identifiable differentiator from Chabad Nigunim from other Nigunim. I always felt that it was be that your Chabad Nigunim sounds like it's something is being demanded of you. In light of what we were talking about.
Yeah. No free lunch.
Yeah, Chabad Nigans. Oh, yenanam, oh, yenanam, ay, 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 yenanam, ay, yenanam. Oh, yo, yo, ya, inna, 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 yenanam. Yo, yena, 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 inna, 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 yenanam. Oh, yena, 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 inna, 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 yenanam, yenanam. Oh,
ya, ya, ya.
inna, 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 yenanam. Oh, yeah, oh, Noch ein Nussach. Noch ein Nussach. Noch ein Ding. Shavuos. Find the Shavuos niggin. There's only one Shavuos niggin for.
What's a Shavuos?
Over here. Besides for Ata B'Chartanu, uniquely Shavuos is Teira, Teira Tziva, Tziva Lanu Moshe, Teira, Teira Tziva Lanu Moshe, Teira, Teira Tziva, Tziva Lanu Moshe, Teira, Teira Tziva Lanu Moshe, Teira Tziva, Teira Tziva Lanu Moshe, Teira Shogei Las Yaakov, Teira Tziva, Teira Tziva Lanu Moshe, Teira Shogei Las Yaakov, Teira ya 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 da 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 Layla, ya ya ma da 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 da, ya ya ma da 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 Layla, ma ya ma da. La 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 ma yo ma ya ya la 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 mo yo ya la ay la 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 ay tira tsiva la no moshe voy rasho geilas Yaakov tira tsiva la no moshe voy rasho geilas Yaakov da la ma da da la la ma da da ya ya ma da da la ma Teira tziva lanu Moshe, 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 Moira shogei las Yaakov, Teira ציווה תירא ציווה לנו משה אוי רשו גאילס יעקב אירה יא מה דדה לילה דדה לילה מה דדה מה יא מה דדה דדה יא מה דדה Cute one. Cute nigga. Didn't do my homework yet. Yeah.
You feel ready for Shavuos, Ellie?
No?
What more do you need to do? You have a plan? You know the story, the guy went to Yechidus. He told the Rebbe, I know I'm going to live long. So the Rebbe said, how do you know you're going to live long? So the guy says, because I have a bracha from your father-in-law that I'm going to be Yorei Shemayim, that I'm going to be God-fearing. And I figure that the pace this is going, I'm going to live long. That's how long it's going to take. So the Rebbe laughed. And then after laughing, the Rebbe said, and what's the plan? So the guy says, listen, there's a lot of things maybe not 100% consistent, but chitas, which he says, I heard from your father-in-law, that I never miss. So that I said, sounds like a plan. Yeah, keep it up. What's going on, Yisrael? You don't want to be recorded? You want to sing a song for us?
It's a rare opportunity.
Your wife will like it. She'll watch the replay. So, you don't want to sing a niggin for us? I didn't sing tonight, but I've sung, and I'm not a good singer. What? Where have you been? What's going on downstairs? Really? Why? What was done? Okay. Great. The tables are excellent. Yisrael bought the tables today. The 18-inch wide tables that are conducive to the double rows for the Farbrengens. Gewaldig. Exclusive and shut the live off? I don't know. When Shammai wants to go home, I'm going to shut the live off. He's devoted. I'm sure he won't cry if we shut the live off. If we shut the live off and go out back, will you light a fire? The fire pit is totally rained out, by the way. But I have a fresh log in my car. I've been driving around with it in my car for 2 weeks. No, I have one. I have an extra log. Yes, I have an extra log. Yeah, like real hippies. Guitar around the fire like a bunch of hippies. Guitar around the fire. Tie-dyed shirts. Pink Floyd, Laser Light Show. I think Ellie was in the middle to tell us his plan, how to get ready for Matan Torah.
Yeah, about my plan.
Yeah.
It's a big plan.
Maybe this will be like the culmination. Like Ellie's going to tell us how he's getting ready for Matan Torah, and then everyone else can have their own. You don't have to do what you're doing.
A few more.
Menachem, you're glad I put that couch there now, aren't you? Yeah, unfortunately, that's 100%. No problem. Yeah. No problem. Okay, no problem. So, I didn't buy a Rambam yet. I don't have a Mishnah Torah. It's going to take up too much room if I get the English set.
The Pardes Hamelach donated.
Yeah. It's called Festival Feces Festooned on Their Faces. So in Hilchas Shvisus Yom Tov, the Rambam says, Perek Vav, Halacha, Chapter 6, Law 18. Maimonides says that anyone who celebrates the holiday and he locks his courtyard and he does not include the disenfranchised, then that's not called Simchas Yom Tov. That's called Simchas Kresoi. That's not celebrating the holiday. That's celebrating his stomach. Self-indulgence. As Malachi says, what is Perek Beis Pasuk Gimel? Quote, Perish Chagechem, the dung of your festivals I will smear on your faces. One time when Menachem was a kid, right after Yom Tov, there was a sewer backup in the basement in Crown Street between Brooklyn and Kingston. There was and Menachem and his brothers helped his father to unclog the backed up sewer. And instead of hiring a Roto-Rooter guy, yeah. And as you were doing it, he said, "This is Pshat Perish Chagechem, the feces of your festivals." And this left such an impression. And now Menachem kocht sich in giving tzedakah on Yom Tov. Yeah, so you can give anywhere to any worthy cause. We want to make it super easy for you, and you can go to Chevra Simchas Shabbos Yom Tov. What is it? CSSY.org. CSSY.org. And give a few bucks. Simchas Yom Tov is only when when it's shared with others. So what's your plan to get ready for Shavuos, Ali?
So I was learning a mimer from the... Wait.
Don't wait last minute. It's insulting when... No later than Motzei Shabbos. You have to invite people to your Shabbos, to your Yom Tov table. Yeah. The disenfranchised guys not going to wait for your invitation. Do it now.
CSSY.org.
Yes. So you're learning a mimer?
Yeah, mimer b'chodesh hashlishi.
Yeah.
That b'chodesh is also chidush hashlishi.
Yeah.
The first chidush was I forget. Second chidush is Chris Yamsov. The third
He's sitting back there, he's editing video while we're on a live stream. We have a whole studio in the basement just for video production. Go to a studio and rehearse. Instead of coming down here and ruining the end of the night for everybody. It's one of the most important places in North America. It is.
As I was saying about the Chidush HaShlishi, yeah, it's from Chassidus perspective. And so I have to go buy some cheesecakes. Albany Bakery has them for $14.99. Thanks to Shirley Clapman. Big shout out. And yeah, take a little nap at Shavuos. We can stay up, say Tikkun.
So you can get a nap on Erev Shavuos so you can stay up late and
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to attempt. I don't think we'll be successful. But
it sounds like good planning. You have a last nigun for us?
the last niggin. Last niggin. A last niggin. I was looking for the story about so we talked about Tillim and David HaMelech. Something going to be saying before Achle Lekim is a niggin from Tillim. There's, I can't remember the story. The punchline of the story is something along the lines of, why do you want to see an Alta Yid saying to him? The Tzemach Tzedek, somebody was trying to peek in the window to see the Tzemach Tzedek saying to him, and the Rebbetzin caught him and said, "Was starts to something like that." Anybody? Am I conflating a couple stories together? I did. I tried it. It made up a fake story. That's I don't think it's from. Probably brought in the Spurich Chassidim somewhere. Anyway, so the Tzemach Tzedek, when he would say Tehillim, would sing, and that's why a lot of the Nigunim that come from the Tzemach Tzedek are from Tehillim. So there's Nigunim, there's Tenuas, there's. So one of them that I learned recently is Keliyata. Keliyata from the Tzemach Tzedek, not from the Alter Rebbe. Sorry? Yeah, I don't know where the... yeah, it's a little odd. But it goes like this. Keliyato v'yoideko Elohika yaroi memeko Keliyato v'yoideko Elohika yaroi memeko Riyama mama 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 Aya Keliyato v'yoideko Elohika yaroi memeko Keliyato v'yoideko Elohika yaroi memeko. That's no.
Where did you discover this?
From David Horowitz. David Horowitz, it's in his collection of Nigunim.
Givaldic. Wow.
But, yeah.
How do I never know about that? Good stuff. Okay. You have anything else like bottled up in you that you need to share? That you want to express?
No, I think we covered it all.
What do you think is the most Chatzikadra Tachtay Nigun? I have a vote. I have a suggestion. I don't know if you'll agree, but it's definitely worthy of the discussion. The biggest Chatzikadra Tachtay Nigun, I would argue, is Big Gedalia Gumber.
Why? Because he wanted to help raise a building?
No, because it's so American. The words, the song, the attitude of it. It's, if you would take Lubavitcher Chassidim from, yeah, and by the way, it is a Moshe Feller creation.
Oh, really?
Who's who's a consummate American chassid.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I don't know if it qualifies as a nigun, but you know, it has that CGI gravitas, you know, certain status. Big Dali Goomber. Moshe Feller was speaking once, I think, on J.J. Hecht's Yortzeit, and talking about how der Newman he was when J.J. would Farbrengen and use baseball metaphors to teach Chassidus. He's talking about Chatzi Kader Tachtein, right? So J.J. Hecht would Farbrengen, and he would say, I think, I remember Moshe Feller saying that J.J. Hecht said one time, we're going to knock the Yetzer Hara out of the park. And he thought that was so cool. Like, this is where it's at. Yeah.
What else is in that genre of real dedication?
Is it okay to say that I don't like the Israeli songs? You know what I mean by that? Like Rabbi Shlita. Oh, Taka. Actually, yeah. Deres Vamuna, when the Rebbe explained, taking the values of the French Revolution and reclaiming it. Yeah. That's a good vote. That's a good vote. But it's still Chatzi Kader Elyon. It's still European. It's still old country. But it's very, you're on the right track with that, definitely. The Chassidim in Russia used to take like Soviet marches and make them into nigunim. It was like a Soviet march. They made it Chassidish. So why can't we take like sitcom theme songs and make it?
The Rebbe asked if Farbrengen they should sing. Should sing it.
What?
You bring in the elements of the sitcom. You gotta pick the right sitcom.
I think Russian culture has Hasidic values. A mishalim of the.
What are you calling Hasidic values? See, I would argue.
Nefesh of the Cossacks and meaning.
So you're romanticizing the old school, and
No, I mean
I'm
that
saying
there
that
is a
Dora
similarity.
Shvi, but that's precisely what I'm saying. That when people equate Russian culture with Chassidishkeit, that's the Rebbe fought against that. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? Like the Rebbe so clearly surrounded himself with fresh blood, with Americans, and like. And suffered for it, by the way, and caught a lot of flack from Spitz Chabad, because the Rebbe was like, this is Chatzi Kader Tachtein. Like, we don't need people who, the Russians used to say stuff like, they still say it, they're Farbrengen, that when Napoleon would go invade and he would have a river without a bridge, they would march the soldiers into the river and they would drown and die and their corpses would pile up until the soldiers could walk on their corpses. Like, romantic, what was this death cult? Like, Chatzi Kader Tachtein, the American style Chassidus, which is the ultimate Dor Shvi, which is the Rebbe's Chiddush, is, what are you marching in the river killing yourself? Don't die. Live. Live. What's the ultimate bittul? The old school style of bittul is bittul idiot, become nothing. Ich bin garnished. And if you forget that you're garnished, the Mashpia will remind you, du bist garnished. Wer bist du? The American style is, you're a king. Go out, move to a town, conquer the world, baby. Not because it's you, because what you represent. You represent the king. The ultimate bittul is shlichus, avid melech melech. That's the ultimate, that's chatzikah deratachtain. You don't have to nullify yourself, get rid of yourself, pretend you're untalented, pretend that you don't have a personality. To the contrary, whatever nefesh habamis you have, whatever personality and talent and whatever, so use it. So use it. So use it. And that's Mashiach. Mashiach is using every aspect of ourselves, not sequestering or isolating parts of ourselves because it's not holy. To the contrary, the parts of you that are unholy need to be elevated. Make them holy. Make it holy.
Mm-hmm. You haven't succeeded in making them holy, and I think that's where that's why we still say, do not do kill yourself part, because yes, you can use your talents to make camp songs, yes, you can use your talents to, spread Yiddishkeit, open a Chabad house, change the world, get onto Instagram, whatever it is you're using, but it feels like, maybe it seems like, it just feels like you're using a non-holy thing currently in a holy way, but the undercurrent is actually unholy. It feels like, it seems like, right? Like we're sitting at a Farbrengen, and yes, we're convinced that these great pickles, which are very good, by the way, appreciate it, is like...
My son is the one who bought the Farbrengen. Yisrael Taub.
But we're using, okay, so we're at a Farbrengen, so it's like, okay, it's excusable
Right.
to eat the pickle, but...
Right, we're gonna do Mivtzayim at the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, which came first? Do you wanted to go on Mivtzayim today, and then you figured out the Super Bowl is the place to do it, or you wanted to go to the Super Bowl and you need a ticket, quote unquote?
I'm okay with that, because over there at least you did Mivtzayim.
Mm-hmm.
But here, like eating the pickle, or so okay, I made a song and it was done in a holy way, but the underlying theme was not. It wasn't bittul. You're screaming bittul, right?
Mashiach is Yisabcha.
When a person dies, that's bittul. Yeah, I channel my ego this way, but it's still me. It's still my ego.
When a person dies, what he does is he takes all the unmanageable parts of himself and he solves that problem really fast. Like, that's the ultimate solution. It's the ultimate solution. That's it. Now you're dead. That's it. Everything. There's no more ego. Got rid of it. It's like, what do you call it? Swatting a fly with a shotgun, I think that's the metaphor. Mashiach means that there's no part of the world that's left unholy, that it's all used, it's all transformed. In Taka, there is such a thing as Gimel Klippus Tameus, and that can never be elevated, and therefore, Asruach HaToma Ave Min HaAretz. Okay, Taka, there is that. But most of ourselves, Nefesh HaBamis is Klippas Noiga. Most of ourselves is redeemable. And not only it's redeemable, meaning you can redeem it, you must. That's what Mashiach is. So if you tell me it's like we figured out ways of incorporating these lower aspects of ourselves, but at the end of the day, it remains what it is. Well, that's Golus. Golus is, at the end of the day, Golus remains Golus. And like the Rebbe said so many times, what's Geula? Geula, redemption. Goyla, which means exile, with an Aleph. Aleph is Alufa Shaloilam. Hashem is the master of the world. taking all the stuff of the world and introducing or exposing, revealing the godly intention. So if you say that, really this stuff is garbage, but I figured out an excuse how to use it in an officially Chassidish way for now. That's not tachlis hakavana. And frankly, implies a certain hispilus von Welt, meaning you are intimidated by the world. You do see it's formidable, and you therefore feel that you can never permanently overcome it. Whereas we're supposed to feel that the whole world can and must be channeled in a holy way. What's going on, Yisrael? Fire's ready? Really? You lit the fire? It was. There is a log in my car. You lit the wet stuff? Or is it smoking like crazy? Okay. It's in a box in the back seat. There's a box in the back seat. Okay, the fire's out back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Thank you, Ellie. We're going to adjourn. We're going to go outside. Shama, you could cut the live stream.